The grand chamber of Nexus Station hummed with activity as representatives from every corner of the galaxy settled into their places. Massive Zephyrian warriors in combat plating sat beside the elegant, robe-draped Alarians. Diminutive Nexari traders darted between the aisles, closing last-second deals before the meeting officially opened. Delegates from 47 distinct species packed the enormous hall, each carrying their own traditions, tongues, and hidden motives into the 847th session of the Galactic Assembly. Ambassador Veltar of the Alaron Collective took her place at the podium, her metallic silver skin catching the glow of the station's lighting. She had held her council seat for more than 100 years, and throughout that entire span, a single unresolved issue had gnawed at her more than any other. With a sweep of her fingers across the holographic console, she pulled up a record every delegate could recite from memory. Honored members of the Galactic Council, she opened, her voice flowing smoothly through the chamber's enhanced sound system. We must once more turn our attention to Sol 3 called Earth by its own people. A weary sigh rippled through the assembly. The human question had surfaced at every major gathering for 2 centuries straight, and still nobody had found a way forward. Veltar carried on reciting from the file. Initial contact attempts had begun 2 and 3 years earlier, right after humanity mastered faster-than-light communication. Formal diplomatic transmissions had been sent to their homeworld. The humans confirmed the messages arrived, yet never issued a genuine reply. She gestured again, and a timeline of contact attempts filled the screen, marked with red flags, showing decades of failed diplomatic efforts. We have extended formal invitations to join this council. We have proposed trade pacts, cultural programs, technological aid. Every single transmission was confirmed, received, none was ever answered. War Commander Krex of Zephyrian hegemony pounded his armored fist against his seat, the impact echoing like a cannon blast through the hall. This cannot be tolerated. Every civilized species in this galaxy takes part in council business. The humans spit on 200 years of galactic law and custom. The towering warrior rose to his full height, nearly 3 meters, his people having ruled their stretch of space through raw military dominance for millennia. Being disregarded struck him as a personal insult. My fleet officers report human ships operating in 17 separate star systems. They've built colonies, mining rigs, research outposts. Yet, when our patrol vessels draw near, the humans vanish like frightened animals. Trade Prime Zix of the Nexari Consortium clicked her mandibles in agreement. Though barely a meter in height, her voice held the weight of someone commanding vast trade networks. The commercial fallout is concerning. Human settlements are entirely self-reliant. They extract their own materials, grow their own food, build their own goods. They decline every trade offer we present. Their isolation is disrupting established market patterns. Dr. Thayan, the Council's senior xenobiologist, pulled up his own findings. His people, the studious Mandari, had overseen much of the first contact process. Behavioral modeling indicates the humans grasp our communications completely. Their confirmation signals follow correct diplomatic form. They know we're here. They know what we're asking. They simply decline to answer. Perhaps their minds simply can't grasp galactic diplomacy, offered Ambassador Quill of the Hegemony states. Their tech seems crude next to council standards. Maybe multi-species governance is beyond their comprehension. Veltar shook her head firmly. Our intelligence says otherwise. Human vessels display advanced cloaking. Their colonies show remarkably refined terraforming methods. They cracked faster-than-light travel entirely on their own, without any council assistance. A lack of intelligence is not the explanation here. Silence settled over the chamber as the delegates weighed this. Every recognized species had, sooner or later, joined the council, whether by choice or by pressure. The Council kept order across countless star systems, governed interspecies commerce, and had staved off the catastrophic wars of earlier centuries. "What do we truly know about human civilization?" asked Representative Mon of the Free Worlds Alliance. Dr. Thayan checked his files. Distant observation shows a varied world with numerous governments and cultures, apparently recently unified under some type of planetary administration, though its precise nature stays unclear. Population figures suggest roughly 8 billion inhabitants. Military strength? Demanded War Commander Krex. Unknown, Thayan admitted. Human ships emit unfamiliar energy readings. They dodge direct contact with our patrols. We have no data on their armaments or fleet size. Trade Prime Zix leaned in. Commercial intelligence indicates substantial manufacturing power. Their colonies need no outside supply, which implies serious industrial capability. Yet they show zero interest in Council technology or resources. Velta scanned the summary once more. 200 years of outreach, hundreds of diplomatic notes, dozens of trade proposals, all acknowledged. None answered. Humanity remained the galaxy's deepest puzzle. "The question before this body," she declared, "is whether we maintain our current course or explore other options." War Commander Krex rose again. "The Zephyrian hegemony proposes decisive action. A species that disregards this council, disregards galactic law, perhaps it requires a reminder of its duties." "You're proposing military force?" Veltar asked cautiously. "I'm proposing a diplomatic enforcement operation," Krex replied. "A fleet substantial enough to display council authority. If the humans prefer isolation, let them keep it confined to a single system under council watch." The suggestion sent unease rippling through the assembly. Armed action against a species showing no aggression clashed with several council principles, but frustration over the human situation had reached a boiling point. The Nexari Consortium would back limited economic sanctions, Zix offered, cut off their access to neutral shipping lanes, force their hand. The Alaran Collective believes diplomacy must be fully exhausted before any coercive step, Velta stated, though her tone lacked its usual certainty. Dr. Thayan raised a scholarly concern. "We lack adequate intelligence on human military strength. An armed intervention could prove far costlier than expected." Krex laughed, a sound like scraping metal. "They flee our patrol craft. They hide in remote systems. Those aren't the behaviors of a military power. The humans are scared, and scared species tend to become reasonable." The argument dragged on for hours. Some pushed for patience, others for swift action. The Free Worlds Alliance floated the idea of a larger diplomatic delegation. The hegemony states pushed economic isolation. The Zephyrians pressed for a show of force. Finally, Veltor called for a formal vote. "Dispatch a diplomatic enforcement fleet to the Sol system with the authority to compel human participation in council affairs." Balloting stretched nearly an hour as each delegation checked in with its home government. When the tally appeared, the motion carried by 3 votes. Krex smiled with satisfaction. "The 15th Enforcement Fleet departs within the week. 24 heavy cruisers plus support craft should suffice to persuade the humans to cooperate." As the session broke up, delegates left in murmuring clusters, discussing the historic vote. Never before had the Council turned to force against a species guilty of no aggression. But the human puzzle was unlike any other, and unprecedented problems, it seemed, called for unprecedented answers. Velta lingered in the empty chamber long after the others departed, eyes fixed on the human file glowing on her display. Something about the decision unsettled her, though she couldn't quite name it. The humans had shown no hostility, yet possessed capabilities nobody could explain. They understood every council message, yet chose silence. They'd settled 17 worlds without any council oversight, yet showed no drive toward further expansion. What kind of species carried that much discipline and restraint, and what would happen the day that restraint finally broke? She would have her answer soon. The watchers deep beneath the Rocky Mountains of North America, Admiral Sarah Chen moved through hallways that, officially, didn't exist. The Cheyenne Mountain complex had been expanded well past its original Cold War design, with fresh levels drilled nearly a kilometer into solid granite. The facility now housed the most advanced intelligence operation in human history. Chen paused before a massive blast door, bearing only the emblem of the Terran Defense Force. Her genetic profile and retinal scan unlocked what insiders simply called the Observatory Humanity's eye on galactic politics. Beyond it stretched a command center of staggering scale. Hundreds of technicians tracked banks of monitors displaying intercepted transmissions from across the galaxy. Holographic maps traced trade lanes, fleet movements, and the shifting alliances between dozens of alien powers. Quantum processors hummed softly, chewing through unimaginable volumes of data. Admiral on deck called Lieutenant Rodriguez as Chen stepped onto the main floor. "As you were," Chen said, walking toward the central command platform. At 62, she had spent 3 decades overseeing humanity's most guarded project. While the galaxy assumed Earth was simply ignoring its diplomatic outreach, the reality ran far deeper. Dr. Marcus Webb, Earth's chief xenopolitical analyst, approached carrying a tablet loaded with reports. Despite being a civilian, Webb had become one of the most consequential people alive. His team of linguists, anthropologists, and strategists had cracked every major alien language and dissected every layer of galactic society. The latest council session just wrapped, Webb reported. They voted to send an enforcement fleet to the Sol system, 24 heavy cruisers under Zephyrian command. Chen took the news calmly. Timeline? Krex announced departure within the week. Transit to Earth runs about 43 days on standard Council hyperdrive. Chen studied the main tactical map, which tracked every major fleet in the galaxy in real time. Red markers showed Zephyrian ships, blue for Alaran forces, green for Nexari commercial escorts. Hundreds of vessels drifted across the display, utterly unaware they were being watched from a planet they dismissed as backward. "Bring up the political breakdown," Chen requested. The hologram shifted into a tangled web, connecting the galaxy's major powers. "The Galactic Council looks democratic on paper," Webb explained, highlighting the connections. "But it's really run by 3 dominant powers. The Alarians rule through financial leverage, handing out advanced tech to developing worlds, then using the resulting debt to steer their politics. The Zephyrians enforce order through raw intimidation. Any species that pushes back faces their fleets. The Nexari control the flow of goods through monopoly trade deals. Chen absorbed it with a practiced eye, and the smaller species become client states trading resources and obedience for protection and trade access. Exactly. A sophisticated system of control, dressed up as partnership. Webb pulled up another screen, this one profiling the major council species. The Alarians are rational but rigid, convinced their economic model helps everyone, baffled that Earth won't cooperate. The Zephyrians respect only strength. They read our silence as cowardice. The Nexari see nothing but untapped markets. Chen crossed to a nearby station where Commander Julia Park monitored intercepted chatter. Park had spent 15 years mastering alien tongues and now spoke 17 fluently. "What's the temperature in the chambers?" Chen asked. Park pulled up the recent traffic. "Mostly frustration. They've never dealt with a species that just tunes them out. The Alarians are baffled, sending longer, more detailed pitches, as if we simply don't understand the offer. The Zephyrians are losing patience. Krex has pushed for military action for decades. This enforcement fleet is actually a compromise. They wanted triple the ships. Chen reviewed the summaries with quiet satisfaction. Every alien species had been documented, their languages decoded, their military strength gauged, their governments mapped. Humanity understood galactic civilization better than most of its own citizens did. The irony wasn't lost on her. While the Council believed Earth was too primitive or too fearful to respond, human networks had already infiltrated every major galactic government. Stealth satellites tracked military drills. Quantum intercept stations monitored diplomatic chatter. AI systems modeled social trends and forecast political shifts. Dr. Webb, Chen said, bring up the strategic assessment. A new hologram revealed the true reason for 2 centuries of human silence. The Council isn't inviting us into an alliance, Webb said. They want submission to their hierarchy. New members enter as junior partners with restricted voting power, get assigned economic roles based on their resources, and have their militaries folded into Council command. Chen nodded grimly. Show the colony assignments. Webb lit up several systems on the map. New members typically get confined to 3 or 4 worlds. Population growth gets capped through mandatory colonization limits. Tech development is throttled through licensing deals with the established powers. So they want us as another client state, Chen concluded. Precisely. Earth would end up as an agricultural and light manufacturing hub. Our people scattered across assigned colonies under Council watch. Our military reduced to Zephyrian auxiliaries. Chen weighed the data, her resolve hardening. Humanity had spent 2 centuries growing quietly while the galaxy stayed oblivious. Earth's 17 colonies sat astride key hyperspace corridors. Human factories had reached full automation and total resource independence. The Terran Defense Force had built weapons and engines that outclassed Council's standards. They think we're afraid, Chen murmured. They have no clue we've been getting ready. Webb brought up one last display. Humanity's true military strength. The figures would have stunned any Council analyst. Earth's shipyards had been quietly churning out vessels for 50 years, using advanced techniques and asteroid-sourced materials, with automated mining rigs harvesting rare elements from hundreds of unclaimed worlds. Operation Prometheus is ready, Webb reported. Every fleet element is in position. Personnel at full readiness. Chen moved to the central platform and triggered her personal communicator, linking to every Terran Defense Force base across 17 star systems. All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Chen. You're cleared to execute Operation Prometheus. Set course for Nexus Station. Time to introduce ourselves to the galaxy. Confirmations poured in from across human territory. Fleet Admiral Torres confirmed launch from the Titan shipyards. Admiral Kumar reported readiness from the asteroid belt installations. Admiral Nakamura gave the all-clear from the outer defense platforms. Chen turned to Webb, a faint smile forming. How long since the Council's first message? 203 years, 4 months, 17 days. Well then, Chen said, I'd say we've made them wait long enough. The command center's screens showed human fleets stirring into motion. Ships hidden for years behind moons and asteroids throughout the Sol system emerged from concealment. Vessels disguised as mining rigs revealed their true purpose as armed escorts. Cargo haulers released swarms of smaller craft that snapped into attack formation. For 200 years, humanity had listened, learning the languages, studying the politics, mapping the weaknesses. Now, it was time to speak. Unwelcome arrivals. 848th Galactic Assembly was moving through routine business when every sensor on Nexus Station simultaneously screamed alarms. Technical Officer Yilon of the Mandari Science Corps had been tracking ordinary traffic when her console erupted in cascading warnings. Supervisor, she called out, I'm reading massive hyperspace disturbances in sectors 7 through 12. Chief Supervisor Dorothan rushed over, his multiple arms flying across the controls. The Mandari had engineered most of the station's sensors, and he'd never seen readings like this. Scale and nature of the disturbance. Unknown, sir. The energy signatures don't match any known drive type. And the volume, Yellen's voice caught as new contacts flooded her screen. Sir, I'm counting hundreds of ships. In the council chamber, Ambassador Velta was delivering routine trade updates when her personal communicator buzzed with an emergency alert. She read it and felt ice settle in her chest. Around the amphitheater, other delegates were getting the same warning. War Commander Krex rose sharply, his armor feeding him live tactical data. Unidentified fleet approaching Nexus Station, vessel count exceeding initial estimates. The chamber's main screens flared to life with external sensor feeds. Against the starfield, shapes were coalescing out of hyperspace, not the dozen ships typical of an enforcement fleet, but hundreds upon hundreds of vessels. Trade Prime Zix's mandibles clattered nervously as her commercial scanners struggled to identify the newcomers. These aren't registered vessel types, hull configurations unknown, energy readings beyond current classification. The station's AIN advanced Alaran system called the Nexus Mind announced in its level synthetic tone, alert condition red. Unidentified fleet composition, 1,047 vessels of unknown origin approaching station perimeter. Stunned silence gripped the chamber. 1,000 ships outmatched the entire fleets of most species combined. The largest enforcement action in Council history had involved fewer than 200 vessels. Krex received a steady stream of updates from his analysts. Hull material appears to be advanced metallic alloys. Drive systems produce exotic energy patterns. Weapon systems undetermined. The ships are holding at standard diplomatic range. Velta felt cold certainty settle over her. Computer, display vessel design parameters against known species databases. The screen filled with detailed scans of the approaching fleet's sleek, angular hulls with flowing lines suggesting both aesthetics and function, moving with a precision that spoke of advanced command coordination. No matches found, the Nexus Mind reported. Vessel designs correspond to no known shipbuilding tradition. Could they be from beyond this galaxy? Asked Representative Morn. Dr. Thayen was frantically scanning his xenobiological databases. Impossible. Intergalactic travel exceeds the theoretical energy limits of any known civilization. The tactical map showed the mysterious fleet settling into position around Nexus Station, forming a perfect sphere with vessels spaced at mathematically exact intervals of formation. So tactically refined it impressed even the Zeperian observers. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. Universal diplomatic band. Signal clarity is unusually high. The display flickered, then resolved into an image that drew gasps of recognition from several delegates. A human woman in an unfamiliar military uniform appeared, her expression calm, her smile somehow both warm and unsettling. "Greetings, Galactic Council," she said. "Admiral Sarah Chen, Terran Defense Force. I understand you've been trying to reach us about our planet's extended warranty." The joke landed flat with most species present, but its meaning was unmistakable. This was humanity's answer to 2 centuries of outreach. Krex recovered first. "How did you build this fleet without Council detection?" "Our intelligence networks track every significant shipbuilding operation," Krex replied automatically. "You track the shipbuilding you know about, Commander," Chen said, her smile widening. "Humanity's been quite busy while you were mailing us those charming invitations." Velta found her voice. "Admiral Chen, your species has disregarded our diplomatic overtures for over 2 centuries. This sudden show of force hardly suggests peaceful intent. On the contrary, Ambassador. We received every message. We read every trade offer, every cultural program, every membership application. We studied them closely. The admission rippled through the assembly. The humans had been listening the entire time. Dr. Thean leaned forward. If you received our messages, why the silence? Standard protocol calls for acknowledgement followed by preliminary talks. Chen's tone sharpened slightly. Doctor, we did acknowledge receipt, but answering further would have implied we accepted your framework. We needed time to understand exactly what you were offering. And what did you conclude? Asked Trade Prime Zix. That the Galactic Council isn't the democratic alliance it claims to be. It's a protection racket wrapped in diplomatic language. The accusation triggered an uproar. Delegates shouted denials and demanded clarification. Krex slammed his fist against the podium hard enough to crack the reinforced casing. Chen waited for the noise to die down. For 200 years, we monitored your transmissions, mapped your political systems, and assessed your militaries. We know about the debt-based dependency schemes. We know about the tribute arrangements disguised as trade. We know about the client-state deals that strip developing worlds of real independence. Velta felt dread building. You've been running intelligence operations against council members. We've been learning about our neighbors, Chen replied smoothly. When someone mails you invitations for 2 centuries, it seems wise to research their organization before deciding whether to show up. The human ships held their formation with mechanical precision on the tactical displays. No weapons were visible, yet the fleet radiated quiet menace. Krex opened his own channel. Admiral Chen, you command an impressive force, but you're outnumbered by the combined militaries of 47 civilizations. 1,000 ships is not enough. Chen glanced off-screen at something. Actually, Commander, our intelligence suggests you could field roughly 800 heavy warships if every council member fully mobilized. Of course, that would leave your homeworlds completely exposed. The casual reveal of classified military figures stunned the room. Council fleet strength was among the galaxy's best-kept secrets. However, Chen went on, we're not here to start a war. We're here to attend a meeting, specifically the 48th Galactic Assembly. I believe we're fashionably late. Veltar struggled to process it. You wish to take part in council proceedings? We wish to make a presentation to the assembled delegates. We have a proposal we believe benefits every civilization here. What kind of proposal? Asked Morn. Chen's smile returned, now edged with steel. A better way to organize galactic civilization, one built on genuine equality instead of disguised exploitation. One where every species can flourish without surrendering its independence to economic overlords or military hegemonies. The chamber went quiet as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't come to join the system. They'd come to challenge it. Krex checked his fleet's positions across the sector. Even with immediate mobilization, assembling a matching force would take weeks. You speak of equality while parking an overwhelming fleet at our door. We speak of change, Commander. Whether that change comes peacefully is up to how reasonable everyone chooses to be. The message was unmistakable. After 200 years of silence, humanity had finally introduced itself to galactic civilization and brought enough firepower to make sure the introduction stuck. The reckoning chaos swept through the council chamber as delegates struggled to grasp the impossible turn of events. Krex barked orders to his fleet commanders. Velta scrambled to consult Alaran intelligence networks. Trade Prime Zix triggered emergency protocols to safeguard Nexari commercial assets across the sector. Through it all, Chen's image stayed calm on the main screen, watching the alien politicians scramble with the detached patience of someone who'd predicted every reaction in advance. Order! Order in the chamber! Velta called, activating the station's calming systems. A low harmonic tone spread through the air, meant to soothe the agitated beings of any species. The shouting gradually faded. Krex spoke first, his massive frame shaking with barely contained fury. "Admiral Chen, your species has committed an act of war by entering Council space with hostile intent." "Commander," Chen said evenly, "we arrived openly, on established trade lanes, using standard diplomatic channels. Our ships haven't targeted your installations or threatened your people. By any measure of galactic law, this is a peaceful diplomatic visit. Peaceful visits don't require 1,000 warships. That depends entirely on who you're visiting, doesn't it, Doctor?" They unscrambled through xenobiological records, hunting for any precedent. "Admiral, your species shows capabilities far beyond our prior estimates. How did you achieve such advancements so quickly?" "Our advancement wasn't quick, Doctor. You simply weren't watching the right things." A second holographic figure appeared beside Chen. Marcus Webb, introduced as a civilian consultant, his credentials displayed for the Council. Where Chen carried military bearing, Webb projected the calm authority of a scholar presenting findings. "Distinguished delegates," Webb began, "humanity has spent 2 centuries studying galactic civilization. We've learned your languages, mapped your political systems, and evaluated your technology. The findings are illuminating." The display shifted to intelligence files on every major Council species. Alaran economic policy is built on manufacturing dependency, advanced tech traded for exclusive resource rights and political compliance. Client species become so financially entangled that independence becomes essentially impossible. Velta felt a chill of recognition. The analysis was uncomfortably precise. Zeperian military doctrine relies on overwhelming force projection to maintain order. Webb continued. Fleet deployments are designed to discourage resistance rather than provide genuine protection. Client species supply troops and resources while forfeiting military independence. Krex's own tactical readouts confirmed it. Every major base location, fleet strength and deployment pattern correctly identified. Nexari trade networks manufacture artificial scarcity through monopoly agreements, controlling access to essential goods and forcing client species into unfavorable terms. Prosperity becomes contingent on Nexari approval. Zix's mandibles clicked in distress as Webb displayed commercial data that should have been impossible for outsiders to obtain. The Galactic Council presents itself as a democratic alliance, Webb concluded, but functions as a sophisticated control system. New species enter as junior partners with limited rights, get assigned roles that serve galactic needs rather than their own, and are slowly folded into dependency. Silence gripped the chamber as delegates absorbed the sweeping indictment. For many smaller species, hearing their situation laid out so plainly was a revelation. Representative Morn found his voice. "Dr. Webb, you're suggesting our entire system of governance is fundamentally broken. What's your alternative?" Chen reappeared, her expression turning more serious. "We propose the Terran Accords, a genuinely democratic galactic government founded on real equality, instead of disguised exploitation." A new document appeared, its language carefully built to correct the flaws Webb had just outlined. "Equal representation for every species, regardless of technological level or economic weight," Chen explained. "No tribute systems, no forced trade monopolies, no client-state arrangements. Every world keeps sovereignty over its own affairs, while joining collective decisions on galactic security and commerce." Krex scoffed. "Impossible. Less advanced species lack the knowledge to weigh complex galactic matters. The current system exists because leadership demands experience. The current system exists because powerful species wanted to protect their advantages, Commander. You're mistaking self-interest for competence." Webb pointed out specific clauses. The Terran framework includes technical assistance, educational exchange, and gradual capability building, but all voluntary, designed to build independence rather than dependency. Velta studied the proposal uneasily. Admiral Chen, this would completely reshape galactic civilization. The economic upheaval alone would touch billions of lives. The current system already touches billions of lives, Ambassador. Just negatively. We're offering something better. Zix ran her commercial models. Your economic framework would wipe out established trade relationships. The financial disruption would be catastrophic. For whom? Webb asked pointedly. For the Nexari corporations monopolizing interstellar trade, or for the client species paying inflated prices for basic necessities. The question exposed the real divide, those who benefited from the current order and those who suffered under it. Several smaller delegations exchanged meaningful glances. Krex returned to his central worry. Even granting your political theory merit, Admiral, you lack the strength to enforce it. The Council's numbers dwarf yours. Chen's tone hardened. Let me be clear, Commander. This fleet represents about 30% of current Terran Defense Force strength. Our shipyards have run at full capacity for 50 years. Our tech exceeds Council specifications across every major category. Your own tactical computers should already be telling you how this would go. Technical specs appeared, showing human vessel capabilities that made even Zeperian dreadnoughts look outdated. But more importantly, Chen continued, we're not here to conquer anyone. We're here to offer a choice. Adopt the Terran Accords voluntarily, or watch galactic civilization fragment as more species realize they don't need the Council's protection or permission to thrive. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Humanity had shattered the core assumption that species needed the Council's shelter to survive. If they could reach independence and prosperity alone, others might follow. Velta grasped the deeper implication immediately. You're not just challenging our government structure. You're challenging the whole idea of mandatory galactic unity. We're challenging forced unity, Chen corrected. Voluntary cooperation benefits everyone. Coercive systems benefit only those holding the leash. Krex kept receiving tactical updates confirming the same grim conclusion. Human capabilities exceeded Council estimates by a wide margin. A direct clash would be devastating. What assurance do we have that humanity won't simply become the next dominant power? Chen's smile returned, warmer this time. The same assurance you gave every species you brought into the Council. Commander, our word that will uphold the principles we're proposing. And if you decline our offer, you decline it knowing the galaxy has now seen an alternative to your system, and knowing humanity will keep existing and thriving outside your control regardless. The message was clear. The era of Council dominance was ending, gracefully or otherwise. Dr. Thayan asked one final question. Admiral Chen, why reveal yourselves now? You could have stayed hidden indefinitely. Chen considered it carefully. Because as isolation is ultimately a dead end, Doctor. Humanity wants to be part of galactic civilization. We just want it to be one worth joining. A new order. The chamber sat in sun silence for long minutes, as delegates absorbed the scale of humanity's proposal. The Terran Accords went beyond political reform. They challenged every assumption about how galactic society should be run. Velta broke the quiet first. Admiral Chen, you're asking us to dismantle a system that has kept galactic peace for millennia. Flawed as it is, it has prevented the devastating wars of earlier eras. Chen nodded respectfully. Ambassador, we're not proposing to end galactic cooperation. We're proposing to make it genuinely voluntary. Peace maintained through coercion isn't real peace, it's suppressed conflict, waiting for its moment to erupt. Webb pulled up historical data. Our analysis shows the current system has prevented large wars by ensuring no single species could challenge council authority. But it has also spawned countless smaller conflicts as oppressed populations pushed back client status. The numbers were damning. Dozens of police actions and stabilization campaigns over the past century, each aimed at preserving the existing hierarchy. Morn leaned forward. Dr. Webb, your model assumes species will cooperate freely even when their survival interests clash. History says otherwise. History under the current system, Webb replied. When species are treated as equals instead of subordinates, they tend to cooperate more readily. When they know they can walk away from arrangements that no longer serve them, they're more likely to honor the ones they make. Zix had been running economic projections throughout. The commercial fallout would be enormous. Ending established monopolies would disrupt supply chains across the galaxy. Billions rely on the current arrangements. Chen addressed her directly. Prime Zix, your model assumes current trade relationships are necessary, rather than simply profitable for Nexari corporations. Independent modeling suggests open competition would lower costs for most species while still leaving room for efficient producers to profit. And inefficient producers, Zix challenged, would be replaced by better ones, Chen said calmly. The same selective pressure that drives biological evolution can improve economic systems too, once artificial barriers to competition come down. Krex had stayed quiet, reviewing tactical assessments from his staff. The conclusions were uniformly grim. Admiral Chen, your fleet positioning suggests deep study of our defenses. That level of intelligence penetration is a serious security breach. Commander, we studied publicly available information and drew logical conclusions. Council military doctrine relies on overwhelming force projection. Your base locations and deployment patterns follow predictable logic, built to maximize psychological impact on potential rivals. Krex's own displays confirmed it every major strategic position, correctly deduced through analysis alone. You've turned our own doctrine against us, he admitted grudgingly. We learned from your successes and your mistakes, Chen corrected. The Zephyrian model works well against compliant populations. It's far less effective against opponents who understand your methods and refuse to be cowed. Thayan had been consulting colleagues throughout the galaxy. Admiral, we're getting reports of human activity in sectors we believed uninhabited. How far does your actual territory extend? Webb brought up a galactic map showing human colonies far more extensive than Council intelligence had estimated. Humanity currently maintains active settlements in 43 star systems, with resource operations across an additional 78. The revelation stunned the room. Human expansion had happened entirely beneath Council notice, building a substantial presence without ever triggering diplomatic alarms. These colonies operate under a unified Earth government, Velter asked. Under the Terran colonial charter, Chen confirmed. Each world keeps local autonomy while joining collective decisions through democratic representation. It's essentially a smaller version of what we're proposing for the galaxy as a whole. Representative Vasquez of the Outer Rim territories, a council client for over 2 centuries, finally spoke up. Admiral Chen, what guarantees would independent species have under your system? How do we know humanity won't simply become the new dominant power? Chen's expression sobered. Representative Vasquez, we can't offer absolute guarantees any more than the Council could when it promised to protect its clients. What we can offer is a system built to stop any single power from dominating the rest. Webb highlighted specific provisions. The Terran Accords include mechanisms for collective action against any aggressive power, including humanity. No species would depend on another for essential resources or security. Independent capability building is encouraged rather than restricted. Krex weighed the military angle. You're proposing to arm every species in the galaxy with advanced weapons. That seems more likely to spark conflict than prevent it. Weapons among equals tend to preserve peace, Chen said. Weapons among overlords tend to preserve dominance. The current system concentrates military power in a handful of species while leaving others defenseless. We're proposing to spread defensive capability more evenly. The debate stretched on for hours as delegates wrestled with ideas that upended their basic assumptions about galactic governance. Smaller species began glimpsing real independence. Larger powers worried about losing their privileged place. Veltar called a brief recess so delegations could consult their home governments. As the alien politicians filed out in bewildered clusters, she remained behind with her senior advisors. Analysis, she asked her intelligence chief. The humans aren't bluffing about their capabilities, came the immediate reply. Their fleet positioning shows tactical sophistication beyond our models. Their intelligence penetration is thorough and precise. Most critically, their economic independence looks genuine. They need nothing we currently provide. Veltar weighed it. Political read? If they wanted the galaxy, they likely could take it. That they're proposing voluntary cooperation instead suggests they mean what they say. Elsewhere on the station, Krex was getting similar briefings from his own staff. Can we beat them? He asked bluntly. Unknown, sir. Their technology outclasses our current systems. More troubling, their positioning suggests decades of preparation for exactly this moment. Even a win would come at catastrophic cost. And if we accept their proposal, the Zephyrian hegemony loses its place as the dominant military power, though under their system, we'd keep meaningful influence based on our real capabilities, not our historical standing. When the session resumed, the mood in the chamber had visibly shifted. Delegates who'd reacted with outrage now asked practical questions about timelines and transition steps. Krex rose slowly, his massive frame commanding the room's attention. For a long moment he stood silent, clearly wrestling with a choice that would define his legacy. Admiral Chen, he said at last, the Zephyrian hegemony has kept galactic order for 800 years. We've fought countless battles to preserve peace among the stars. We've lost thousands of warriors protecting species that couldn't protect themselves. Chen waited respectfully for him to continue. Your proposal would end that role. The hegemony would become just one voice among many, our fleet serving collective decisions rather than our own judgment. Yes, Commander. That's exactly what we're proposing. Krex reached for his ceremonial warblade, a weapon passed through 20 generations of his family. Every delegate in the chamber tensed, unsure whether he meant to issue a challenge or make a gesture of peace. Slowly, deliberately, he drew the blade from its sheath and laid it on the podium before him. In Zephyrian tradition, the act signaled recognition of a worthy opponent and a willingness to negotiate rather than fight. The humans have earned respect, he announced. They studied us for 2 centuries while we dismissed them as primitives. They achieved military superiority while we stayed ignorant of their true strength. They offer cooperation while proving they hold the power to enforce their will if needed. He straightened to his full height. The Zephyrian hegemony will consider the Terran Accords.